Is that your tongue behind there? That's what Z stares at all day at home.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And I know everybody missed me on here because I wasn't here for the last episode, and they missed Barry. It's been a while since we showed him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, they miss Barry. It has been a while, but anyway, those are the pictures. Z. Look at that. I know you want to lift that tail up.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are the pictures Z captures on his phone and has stored on his phone and stares at. So.
Yeah, well, I will say Tito looks a little bit overweight. So.
Whose fault is that?
It's good to be back, and it's good to be back. I'm sorry,
Yep.
anybody who's watching this one. I wasn't there for the last episode. Honestly, it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
it was a nightmare. I mean, and talked about it briefly, which
well, Z is alive and well. He's back on the channel. We had to kind of do the last one without him, even though it was more gameplay. If you guys missed that, that's on the channel, watching us play some NCAA. We'll upload some more in the future. But Z, would you like to, before we get into everything here, would you like to tell everybody where you've been?
Well, first of all, let's just say that I've never seen Ed wear this collared shirt before. He's always only had one in his closet. So the fact that he's wearing a different one is pretty shocking. So
yeah, it's pretty shocking.
So,
Z, I've told you I've always had like 8 or 9. I only wear the black one just to make you mad.
Round of applause there, Dad. Anyways, yeah, well, it's good to be back. What is this episode? 53. 53. Today's August 12th. Getting closer to preseason football, or not preseason, regular season football.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we have to start off by what I had to go through. I mean, today's Monday, so technically
the fans have to know Z what happened.
Yeah, I mean, last week, I mean, I told people I was in the travel blender. That's the only way I can put it.
Yep.
Not to get fully detailed, or I mean, I'll say the whole story. I went up to New York. I think Nick watches our video, so it's up to Nick.
Yep.
I went up to New York, and I hung out with one of my good friends just for a few days, as I do every summer, and we had a great time. Tuesday. Because today's Monday, so last Tuesday I was supposed to return back to Orlando, and I was supposed to get back at probably maybe 9 p.m. at night, so not too late, because I had work. I had work Wednesday, and then the rest of the week.
Right.
I got notified at noon. I know the title of this video is going to start off with Z's well-deserved travel experience.
Z gets stranded in 5 different states.
It started off at about noon on Tuesday that I got a notification my flight was canceled. Not delayed, canceled. Flight was canceled. At that point, I was like, oh, great. And then JetBlue sent me an email of explore more options. We're sorry your flight is canceled. Let's see what other things we can present to you. The link doesn't work. The link literally doesn't work to load at. And so I literally call in. I call in on the phone, and I'm like, "En, can you pull this up on your computer and see if it's working?" It didn't work for him either.
No.
So I had to call, and I was on hold for 2 hours. I was on hold for 2 hours till I got a hold of somebody.
In the middle of a flight cancellation.
Oh, God. Until I got a hold of somebody. Disclaimer, I did not yell at the person on the phone because I know they were probably going through it. I get it. My mom used to work for the airline, so I understand. I work in hospitality. I understand when you get screamed at, it really doesn't help your day.
No, it doesn't.
So, no, it doesn't. So I was not coming in that phone call getting upset. Somebody finally answers the phone. I tell them what's going on. Obviously, they were very aware. And so I simply asked, I said, when is the next time I can leave out of New York? Because I know it's probably not tonight. And honestly, just so you guys know, I was looking online everywhere. And I told this lady on the phone, I'm like, any airport that's nearby, even where I can take a train to, that'll be the second part of the story. LaGuardia is the airport I fly out of in New York. JFK, New Jersey, Boston, Philadelphia. Shit. I don't know. Freaking Rhode Island. like anywhere. Give me some options.
Right.
This lady tells me the next option would have been 4 days later. I just want you to process that for a second then. 4 days later was my next option to fly out. What am I going to call out 4 times? So I then canceled the flight. And now I was desperately looking. And now we're like into Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Right when I canceled the flight, I then called my job. And I called my job and I told them that I'm not going to be making it the next day. I said, I'm sorry. Flight is canceled. This tropical storm that came through Florida and now is on its way up to the northeast. It's just effing everything up. So I called out like almost 24 hours for my shift. Anyway, so the next part to it is I now started going. I don't think Ed and I have a big enough platform, so I'm just going to say it. American Airlines, United, even Delta. You guys are all jokes. You guys are literally all jokes. I mean, charging people $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah.
To leave New York the next day.
Yeah.
Charging people $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah.
To get where they need to get to. That should be illegal. That should be illegal. Then it should be illegal.
I agree. Well, I don't fly those airlines. They're all jokes. Yeah.
I mean, it should flat out be illegal.
Freaking robbing you.
I'm not paying $2,500. So, just that alone, it will be the reason why I'll never fly those airlines again. And quite frankly, I hope they go out of business in 10, 20 years.
Trying to steal money, Z. Trying to steal money. Might as well call them all Bradley Beal.
Yep. Yeah. Anyways, but then I found an option. And God forbid it was with Frontier. And before anybody says, "Oh, Frontier is not that bad," I don't want to hear it. Frontier is awful, and everybody knows it. But it was my only option. And now, getting back on track of the story. So I bought this ticket out of Philadelphia that night, that Tuesday night.
Yep.
I bought the ticket for about $600. It was better than $2,500. And I bought the ticket right on the spot. I then, to speed up the story a little bit, in New York, Penn Station, right in the heart of Manhattan, I hopped on an Amtrak train to head up to Philadelphia that night. Spontaneous, right on the spot. Nick was helping me with it. Grateful for Nick. But then I said bye to Nick. I hopped on the train. I started heading to Philly. Oh. About an hour and a half ride. And on the way up to Philly, I get a notification on my phone that my Frontier flight was canceled.
It's truly amazing.
And at that point, I want to cry.
Yeah.
I'm a 26-year-old.
How much stress was going on in your mind?
And at that point, I wasn't really so much stressed just because, like, I know there were other options. Like, if I had to go back to New York to go stay with Nick again, but it was just more of the way of like, why is this happening?
Right.
So, I'm a 26-year-old man. I literally end up calling my mom. I didn't know what to do. I called Ann a million times.
Oh, now you love her.
Yeah. I called Ann a million times. So now I was stuck in Philly. And then the next option was now this is option number 3.
Yep.
I thought of
going on to the third state here.
Yep. I then thought of flying out of Baltimore the next day, which there were Southwest flights available with Baltimore for about $600. Still not as bad as $2,500. $600 the next day. Again, remember, this is Tuesday night. This is all happening Tuesday.
Yep.
I bought a flight out of Baltimore the next day for $600 with Southwest. I then hopped back on the train again for about another hour and a half ride down to Baltimore from Philly. I got to Baltimore probably at midnight. And then I literally booked a hotel and I went straight to the hotel. I slept for like 6 hours and I got up and head straight to the Baltimore airport. Thankfully, God bless, no delays, no cancellations. This is why probably from the permanent future. And I do anyways. Like when I fly to Arizona, when I flew to see Nate, when I fly to Baltimore, I always fly Southwest. But I think for sure from this point on, I'm not gonna consider anybody else.
Obviously, you can't. It's too unreliable.
Yeah. So so then Wednesday came around. Wednesday morning, I hopped on like a 9-10 a.m. flight from Baltimore. I had it connecting to Nashville. I literally had to walk like 18 miles to get to the next gate.
How much time did you have?
I had like an hour, so it was fine.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing like those those layover flights and you get about 5 minutes to get to your gate.
Yeah, I know. And you don't want to be that guy running through the airport.
No.
You look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So then I connected flight. I got back to Orlando probably around on Wednesday, so the day after, probably around like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So we made it back, but oh man, it was it
was definitely a nightmare.
Yeah, all in a span of 24 hours from New York to Pennsylvania to Delaware, because that's where the trains also stop in, to Delaware to Maryland to Florida.
Yep.
So
Z ultimately was in about 5 states in 24 hours.
Yeah, it was. So anyways, that was about as
that's why Z was not here.
Yeah, I think that's probably the shortest way I can put it. I hope I didn't drag that story on too long, but that was it. That was I'm sure people have more nightmare scenarios than I have. I'm sure that's not the worst, but it was bad. It was definitely bad.
Definitely was a bad flying experience there for Z.
Yeah.
Probably won't face anything like that ever again.
No.
Not like that.
No. So anyways, I'm glad to be back. Sorry I wasn't there for the last episode, but here we are.
Yep. Z's back at home.
Yep. So I mean we're gonna get on topic, guys. Now we're going to as we talked about before, we're going to finally, and we're in mid-August here.
Yep.
We're, I would say, less than a month away, I think.
Yeah.
From that, less than a month. Yes. Less than a month away from the NFL season starting of the Chiefs and Ravens on kickoff.
Yeah.
So, first of all, before we get started on our division breakdowns, guys, we're going to go each division, not in one single video. We're going to do 8 different divisions. So if we do have different audiences or fans or anybody who watches our channel that are a fan of the Carolina Panthers, then we'll do an own video on the NFC South. Probably only 10 minutes long, but we don't care. What I want to talk about first, and though, before we get to, we're going to start with the NFC West today. What I want to start with is the kickoff rule. And I were talking about it on my stream yesterday, and we think it's horrendous. So, and what are your initial thoughts by looking at the kickoff? Just the layout of it, the results of it so far. What are your thoughts?
It's different, obviously, because we all know how the original kickoff has been. We understand the whole meaning behind the NFL changing this, trying to gain more returns out of it, more explosive plays, things like that, because really the modern NFL kickoff that we're all accustomed to, it's touchback city. It's touchback city. There's no returns. You don't have kick returns anymore. So I understand, like, just trying to bring excitement, a little bit more of an element like that to it. I get it.
Yep.
The look of it is awful. The kicker all by himself, all the way back there.
Yep.
And then you have both sides of the special teams lined up within a 10-yard gap. And then you have 2 returners in the back. And you have a catching zone that the kicker has to get it into. I believe it's inside the 20-yard line or something like that the kicker has to kick the ball, and the ball has to land within that zone. If it goes in the end zone as a touchback, I believe it goes out to the 40-yard line. And then there's also another thing that happens in terms of...
Well, I don't think a touchback goes out to the 40. I think a kick out of bounds goes to the 40.
Oh no, it goes to the 30-yard line. They moved it to the 30-yard line. If it ends up being a touchback, it goes out to the 30-yard line. There is something where it brings it out to the 40. I forget what it is. I don't think it's the out of bounds thing.
I think it's if it doesn't land in the landing zone or something.
Okay. Well, anyway, It seems a little complicated. It's going to take some time getting used to. This is a one season tryout. So far as we've seen it within the first week of the preseason, nothing's come out of it. There hasn't been any level of returns. Guys are taking it to the 20, 25. Nothing's come out of this so far within a week. And maybe we have to give it a little bit of time, but the look of it looks awful.
Yep.
Based off of probably projected results, I don't really see this new kickoff rule moving the needle, Z. I don't see it moving the needle. You're obviously going to have more returns because the point of it is being able to return the football. But the question is this actually going to move the needle in terms of big plays, big returns? And to be quite honest with you, I don't really see it happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think each team, it's something new that they have developed to it. Just like how we saw last year with like the pitch clock. I mean, there were a lot of pitchers or even batters that came into the like up to the plate, and the pitch clock will run out of them. So it's like a transition period, and that's what the preseason's for. So I do right now say I hope it's a one and done. I do. I understand the thought of it, but that's not what the NFL is.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, and sometimes things just don't need changed. That's just the way it is.
No,
this year,
I understand safety. I understand, the statistics of it, the analytics of kickoff returns the last couple, multiple years of the NFL. But that's part of the game that, like, that's not supposed to happen all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how often in baseball do we see a grand slam?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like all because we don't see a kickoff return all the time doesn't mean that we need to see it every single game.
No, not at all. That's what makes it special.
Yeah. So whatever. We'll continue to monitor that the rest of the preseason.
Yeah. So Z and I are really pretty much both in agreement that the new kickoff rule isn't anything that we rave about right now. And maybe as the season starts, maybe things might get going a little bit with it as teams continue to adjust. But the projection of it, I just don't think it's going to move the needle too much. I really don't.
But let's officially get this going. So we're officially going to start, and we're going to do predictions. We're not going to do, like how far this team's going to go in the playoffs. We're not going to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But we are going to predict who we think's go in the division. We'll go with records, I guess. But here we are. We're going to start with the NFC West.
Yep.
We're going to start with the NFC West out of one of 8 videos.
Yep.
So this is exciting to do. We're starting with the NFC West. There's, in case you guys don't know the teams, I mean, it shows all 4 teams in the NFC West right there. So last time the Cardinals won the division, we were in high school.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That was junior year.
Yeah, it was. So there's the division breakdown. Obviously, it's pretty 49ers and Seahawks heavy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, coming into this division,
senior year, actually, it was senior year.
Yeah, senior year. Coming in this division, I mean, I think it's only right to maybe start off with San Francisco, and I mean, we obviously know many headlines that are going on with San Francisco right now. So they're probably going to be the most complicated to talk about inside this division. So I mean, I'll let you go ahead and start in. I mean, so
yeah. Well, San Francisco obviously is the favorable pick to win this division. Again, we don't really need to go into depth into detail on them as a whole. We've seen them get in an NFC Championship games, a couple Super Bowls since 2019. They have great coaching, just really good talent on both sides of the ball. So they're going to be the favorites, and that's probably what Z and I are going to go with San Francisco. San Francisco's honestly been a migraine in terms of the whole Brandon Ayuk situation. They still have to pay Trent Williams. They have to pay Brock Purdy next year. Not really sure where all this money's coming from, Z. Well, where do you think all this money's coming from?
And the cap doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
Cap doesn't exist.
So they're obviously want to really take this season to run it back and try to go after a Super Bowl as they've been trying to do.
I'll pull up the schedule for them.
But really,
you keep talking.
Really, from a general consensus standpoint, they're the favorite to win. Now, the question is, where does Z and I kind of see them falling in terms of their win-loss? And really, when we look at their schedule here, you obviously have your divisional games. Some games that stick out. We look at the Cowboys and Niners. Obviously, that's one that we'll probably get ratings. Bills and Niners, Jets and Niners, Dolphins and Niners, Lions and Niners. So there's some good matchups there. They have some good, interesting matchups on their schedule. Really, when we look at it, I honestly feel like with kind of where they're at, I feel like 11 to 12 wins is probably the hot spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the biggest headline of the 49ers right now is obviously Brandon Ayuk. And, we're not going to get into the whole Brandon Ayuk talk right now because there's right now it seems like it's like a 50-50 option at this point if he's going to trade the Steelers or if he's going to the 49ers. I was told 2 weeks ago that the trade was happening. So,
well, see, that honestly, that's all on everybody else.
Yeah. And believes the just the worst sources on Twitter.
Maybe people did their jobs.
Yeah. 49ers, I mean, I will say this. They have had probably some of the worst luck that you can ask for, probably the last decade. 2 Super Bowl losses to the Chiefs, multiple NFC Championship losses. Regardless if it was Jimmy Garoppolo starting or if it was Colin Kaepernick or if it was Brock Purdy. They've had awful luck, which does make me feel bad because the 49ers are always successful. But at the same time, I think with them that like one of these years, you think they got to break through. And with the roster that they have, which now that the years are starting to progress, it's going to start getting older. These guys like George Kittle and Debo, like they're not going to be in prime forever. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, these guys are not going to be in their prime forever.
Right.
They're definitely still in their prime right now. Christian McCaffrey, another guy. But like, I will say, like they're one of those teams where like if they don't win one, it would just be a massive disappointment.
Yeah.
And last year might have been their best chance.
Yeah.
With Christian McCaffrey playing at MVP level, Ayuk being one of the best receivers, they probably had the best defense behind Baltimore last year. So coming in this year, I mean, I look at their schedule and hoping that like for their sake, fortunately, that they work out the Brandon Ayuk deal. Mm-hmm. Trent Williams will play at some point. I think they're just going to probably run it back with what they had exactly last year. And I don't think there's really anything crazy to say about them. I think they're going to be the same. I think I'm going to pick them winning the division.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to put Seattle over them with Geno starting. I'm not going to pick the Cardinals over them. I think the Rams could threaten them, but I'm not going to pick the Rams.
Yeah.
So I think Ed and I are both going to have the win of the division here.
Yeah.
Yeah. 11 to 12 win mark as of right now, I think is a pretty safe bet. And then once we get later on the season, we'll get later on. Yeah. But yeah, I think the 49ers are a pretty safe bet to win the division this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving on to who we view finishing second in this division. I'll start on this one. This is a team that I view as a team that can definitely be a playoff team. They were a playoff team last year. I'm going to put the Rams in this spot, Z. Sean McVay, I think, is one of the better coaches in the league. Aaron Donald retires, so you're not going to have him. But I think with the offensive playmaking ability that they have, as long as Matthew Stafford is upright, I think that they're a team that can put up a handful of points. I think that when we look at the landscape, the NFC, I think that they can kind of go toe-to-toe offensively with most of those teams. When we look at the kind of wild card section of the NFC outside of like teams that win division, I think the Rams have an upper hand on a lot of those teams at their full strength. So with the LA Rams, I think 10 wins is a good place for them, Z. 10 wins. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams. They have a rebuilt offensive line. Matthew Stafford, obviously, Sean McVay. Aaron Donald, losing Aaron Donald kind of sucks, but I like what they have to offer on offense. I think that there's going to be some weeks where they're down offensively. I think they're going to kind of have a similar feel as they did last year. But 10 wins, kind of in that wild card spot. One of those wild card spots with the Niners winning their division, I think is a good play.
I think before pulling up the LA Rams schedule, I mean, this is the career of Aaron Donald, which is crazy that they only played 10 years. I think he could have got longer.
Yeah.
But he's probably a smart individual by leaving the game while he's healthy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of production they're losing. And they're losing probably the best defensive player of the decade. Mm-hmm. And people say like, oh, he wasn't that good last year. Well, the guy had 10 sacks. So I mean, how are you going to sit here and say that he's not that good?
Right.
So
acting like he's a freaking edge.
I mean, that's definitely the biggest thing of their offseason is losing Aaron Donald. But Yeah, I think I'm gonna put them as a safe like second place in the division. I think just dude, I don't know. I think like they're so much more experienced than I don't trust the Seahawks. I don't.
Mhm.
I mean,
I was high on them last year, man.
yeah, I like the fact that Mike McDonald's over there. Well, we'll talk about the Seahawks in a moment. But I think the things with the Rams is just kind of what we talk about every year as I'm continuing to look for their schedule here. Uh, I think the things with the Rams is that very similar to the 49ers, they have an offensive head coach. Uh, they have a very skilled offensive personnel. And just literally named every single one of them. Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka. I can't remember who their tight end is. It's still freaking Tyler Higbee or something.
Yeah.
So why is this so hard to find? I don't know why I can't find their schedule. Is this it right here? Hold on. I think I found it. Yeah, Rams 2021 schedule. That's exactly what I want. Okay, well, I'll keep talking while Ann can maybe find it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think they're a safe bet for second place. I think, like, even though Stafford's on the back nine of his career, I think he's still probably I don't know. I wouldn't say tier one, but he's a pretty safe tier two quarterback in the league.
Right.
Kyron Williams could become a tier one running back. They could have potentially 2 tier one receivers. I don't really know too much about their defense. So I mean, I guess that's maybe something to keep an eye on coming in the season for them. But yeah, I think I'm going to put them. I'm going to put them in the Seahawks at like a similar win range. I'll put them around I'll put them around 10. I guess I'll put them around 10 wins.
Why can't there just be a regular image of their whole entire schedule?
Yeah, I mean this is the best I got for us. So we'll just rock with this. It just shows their opponents.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I think the Rams are definitely a team to keep an eye on in the AFC because they definitely could have made a wild card run last year. They played a really close game against Detroit in the first round. They're never a team you can just kind of walk over on the weekly. So I respect them. I respect the Rams. I think they're going to be good this season. I'll put them right at the 10 win mark. I think that's where I'll put them. I think the 10 win mark is safe.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, Z, with third place coming in, I think that you can make a case for either one of these two teams. We look at a team like Seattle, new head coach, defensive mindset, defensive structure. They have some playmaking ability with Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's still there. Smith and Jigba, who is a promising young guy. Kenneth Walker. We know that Geno last year was somebody that he wasn't the Geno he was the year before. We all kind of expected he probably was going to drop off. You know, he had a big season in 22.
Yeah.
Seattle kept him around, gave him a contract. Didn't really move the needle a ton last year. I don't think he's bad or anything like that. He's kind of been a really late bloomer in his career. But he's not really somebody that you look at and you're just going to win all these games with. You know, he needs a lot of structure around him, a lot of help. So when we look at the Cardinals, which we'll get into, but I'm going to stick with Seattle finishing third. I'm going to give Seattle the nod at third. I think this division is going to look like it did last year, not necessarily by the record, but I think from a standing perspective, I think it's going to look like what it did last year. With Seattle, there's talent there, but you also have a new, not just a new head coach, but you have a whole new structure that Mike McDonald is looking to bring in there. I think Seattle has an opportunity to be one of the better defenses in the league, especially their secondary is pretty promising. But when we look at Seattle, I think really a lot of these games for them, I think really the important games for them is going to come in their division. Z, what am I looking at with the logo here?
And I just want to pull something up.
I
can. Go ahead.
With Seattle, I think the big thing for them this year, if they want to get in a playoff spot, is really having a winning record in their division. Because you look at the Niners and you look at because there's teams that can struggle in their division but can get through. I think with where Seattle's sitting, the fact having the Niners, having the Rams really ultimately kind of staring down at you, those division games can be very important. Always division games are always important, but I think specifically for a team like this, But I look at Seattle, Z, and I'll be honest, I don't really think, even with Mike McDonald there and maybe a new mindset and a new voice with Pete Carroll being gone, I don't think they're there yet. I think that they have. I like their talent. I really do. I think that they're kind of in a transition period where you have a new head coach, but you have good talent. You have good talent on your offense that you can put up some good offensive numbers with. You have some talent on defense. I think a defense that can be an upcoming team, or just defensive team. But to me, it's just hard to see that all get done in 1 year. And especially with where they're at with their quarterback situation and everything like that, I kind of see 8 wins here, Z. I see a game or two under 500, a couple games out of a wild card spot. There's going to be some growing pains there with a new philosophy that they're trying to do. I ultimately think this is probably Geno's last year as a starter.
Yeah. Well, this is where I'm going to throw out the first bold prediction of our division videos. Is I'm gonna take Seattle and finish last in division.
Okay.
I'm gonna take them finish last.
I had a feeling you were going to.
Yeah. I'm gonna take them finish last. I don't think they'll finish with a winning record. I think they're gonna have a pretty similar season to what the Jets had last year. Talent up and down the roster, left to right. Very, very talented secondary. But I'm not gonna hate on Geno just because I'm not gonna hate on a player that has that blooms late in his career, gets a good contract late in his career. Good for him.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's it.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's it. I'm sorry. I know he's had a couple decent seasons on Seattle. Last year was obviously not as impressive as his first year, but regardless, I don't really think that he's it. Sorry. So I love Mike McDonald, though. Obviously, he was a defense coordinator on the Ravens last season, and I don't think by any means that it's going to be like a one and done for him. I just think if he had a quarterback caliber of what he had with Lamar or what anybody else in this division has with, I know Brock Purdy's not a star, but Kyle Shanahan makes up for it, or like Stafford or Kyler. He has the worst quarterback, and there's the skinhead, by the way.
Back to 5th grade, Z. Back to the roots.
He has the lowest tier quarterback in the division, and that's just a fact. It's a fact. I'm not looking at the stats. Kyler's coming off an injury last year, but if you're saying Geno's better than Kyler, now to tell you.
Yeah.
So, they're still a talented team. I could be very well wrong. I just think the Cardinals are more young, stronger, faster, and upcoming than they are, and I think this could be a year they make a jump. We'll get to the Cardinals next. But yeah, I'm going to finish. I'm going to say the Seahawks go around 7-10 on the year. Say 7-10.
All right. So Z has a losing record for Seattle.
Yeah.
And about 7 wins.
Yeah, and I think they move off Geno. I think they, maybe think about moving off Tyler Lockett because he's aging. As even though he's a really productive player, and like a lot of people say DK. I don't think DK's overrated. They do have Jack Smith and Jigba there, so they do have some offensive pieces, and I think, and their running back, who's their Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
They have a lot of offensive pieces. I don't really know too much about their offensive line, but this could be a clear year where it's like, listen, our quarterback play is a bit weak. If we can upgrade this, like the Falcons did with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, if the Falcons could do that, or if the Steelers' mindset of bringing in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, that's what I think. That's what I think the Seahawks are going to experience this season. Yeah. I don't think it's a crazy prediction. Because the Steelers went through it, the Jets went through it, obviously based off an injury.
Yep.
But I think the Seahawks are going to have a similar path, and that's okay. That's okay. You're building a new culture here. So
yeah,
I'm going to say they finish with a losing record.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that prediction.
So you have Seattle finishing 3rd.
I do, as of right now. Yes.
Yeah. So we're 3 teams in, which brings us down to our last team.
Brings us down to the Arizona Cardinals. And I view the Arizona Cardinals as a fascinating team. Even though I think Arizona, I have them sitting last again this year, it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing for them. Arizona's been in last year with the new head coach and Kyler being out for half the season, things like that. they did a really good job this offseason of getting to a better spot. And we can pull up their roster and talk about their additions and everything like that. But really, for me, like, yeah, I think this is a a big year for their head coach, especially because when we look at coaches usually in the NFL, it's usually about a 4-year time frame that teams kind of give these guys. And when we look at the Cardinals, there's talent there, but I think that they can be one of the more fun teams to watch. So even though I have them finishing last, I don't think they're going to win like 4 games or anything like that. I think that they're going to kind of be mid. I think really when we look at their record at the end of the day, but I think that Cardinal fans will, with this season, I think take away of that there's promise for their future. Kyler Murray is an interesting quarterback. We've seen what he can do in this league, especially his first couple years, but he's also shown a lot of poor traits. And there's a couple aspects to his game that he cannot control or overcome in his game that are negative. Kyler is fascinating in terms of his running ability. He can push the ball down the field, but he also has mental hiccups for whatever reason. I haven't seen good leadership out of him. And I think with a young roster and rallying around your quarterback, that's an important thing for him to have this year. Coming off of half a season last year, coming in fully healthy to this season this year, you have James Conner, you have Marvin Harrison, you have Trey McBride, an upcoming tight end. You have a rebuild offensive line moving Paris Johnson to tackle. There's things to like about this team. And there's things, I think that this will be one of the more fun offenses. I don't think this is going to be a top 10 offense, but I think that they're going to kind of be in the middle of the pack range. I think that they're going to be in some close games this year, Z. Yes. And I view them in a situation kind of like how the Chargers were a few years ago, where the Chargers would always find themselves in like these 3-point games, one possession ball games, but they just couldn't finish it out. And I think the Cardinals are going to be fun to watch. I think they're going to be in some really close games this year. But when we view them, and I'll pull up what you have here, when we kind of look at them, especially with some of these matchups they're going to go against, really in those type of moments, I don't have the confidence in them yet being able to push past some of these teams in really critical moments. I don't think the experience is there yet. I don't think the leadership's there. Anything like that. I'm still skeptical on some aspects of their defense, but they also still have some guys there. They have a couple guys in their secondary. They have a couple linebackers there. They were pretty active this offseason, honestly. But with that being said, I kind of view them, I think they'll be in the ballpark at about 7 wins, and that's not a bad thing. I think if you're a Cardinals fan going this year, you're looking at production of your young talent. You're looking at the second-year jump for your head coach. You're looking at Kyler Murray showing that he can be their solidified guy of the future because there's been question marks with him. And, yeah. So if I'm a Cardinals fan, Z, for me to take away this season is being able to put up numbers offensively, the development of our young guys, head coach actually showing a culture change, and being able to be competitive in some of these games. And I think if they can find themselves in that spot and win around 7 games, I look at next year as that year to possibly maybe try to make a push for a playoff spot.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything you said. I think the only fact about the Cardinals this season is that they're going to be better, and I'm not going to say they're going to better. Yeah, I'm not going to say they're going to double their win total because they had 4 last year, I think.
Yeah.
I could see them doubling it to 8. I think honestly, just off the bat, I think that's all I have them going as 8 and 9.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are a lot different around the Cardinals this offseason compared to last. Like not knowing who their starter was coming in the season with Kyler coming off an ACL, brand new head coach. Buda Baker wasn't happy. Just like nothing in the, obviously their GM being arrested. So just like nothing about the Arizona Cardinals last offseason was good.
Right.
And this time around, Kyler being fully healthy, Paris Johnson have a year under the belt, bringing in Marvin Harrison, just like like all these, they've made a ton of acquisitions, a ton. And for any team during training camp, the preseason, you could say on paper it looks pretty.
Yeah.
And they're healthy. and they're all optimistic and they're all have good heads and spirits. That's great. That's great. But you know what's going to be difficult is the Cardinals are a young team. So how are you going to act once you've faced Buffalo in the first game and you face Detroit in the third game and you maybe blow a lead here and there because you're probably going to.
Yeah.
How you going to react to it?
Yep.
That's could be a question we're going to have to wait for till we see. Again, and brought up a great point of Kyler's not the best leader. We've never seen it.
Yeah, this is Z. I'll be honest with you. I think this is the biggest year of Kyler Murray's career.
It has to be.
This is, and the reason why I say that is not just the reason why I say that is one, and really one reason only, is because when we look at his resume and we look at what he's done. Okay, we look at the one good year the Cardinals had where they lost in the wild card round, just the epic collapse.
Yeah.
We look at the really fallout after that year, where it's just trash. Kingsbury gets fired. Kyler Murray tears an ACL.
Yep.
This to me, and especially too because of his contract and everything like that, this to me is the biggest year of his career because of not only planning on a full slate of a season, being healthy, but you look at with the new head coach and you look at the offseason acquisitions and you look at some of this offensive talent that this can be a fun offensive team to watch. If Kyler Murray can't produce here with not saying that they have all the pieces they need because they don't, but this is the biggest year of his career to lead this young group to 7-8 wins, I think is fair. You know, we're not going to put unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
But becoming a leader as a guy that's been in the league for 5 years now, going on 6 years, isn't that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Going into that is starting to grow in maturity, starting to grow into leadership role, taking these young guys on your back and helping develop them, but also dude, you're the freaking man. We haven't seen that, Z, in his career. He has not been the man. He has not been the guy. He hasn't shown to be the franchise guy. There's capability, but he hasn't shown it fully to its potential. And I'm looking big at that. And I'm looking at him leading this team and with the young talent they have and through their draft, the last 2 years of them drafting and their acquisitions, I think there's room to work with here. And I think for him to take that next step of possibly maybe being a back end top 10 type guy, he has to really lead this pack. And if he can't do it, we're seeing the immaturity, we're seeing the giving up, we're seeing the quitting, we're seeing he's just not really moving the needle for these guys. That's going to be a big concern going forward. If the Cardinals want a hopeful future, Kyler Murray's going to have a big season.
Yeah, absolutely great. I mean, at the same time, like,
yeah, this guy's smiling.
I think it was his rookie year.
I'd still rather prefer those Cardinals jerseys than their current ones.
I definitely agree. Well, I think I say I like the white ones more. But whatever. Anyways, yeah. I mean, the thing is about Kyler is that when you're the number one pick, you're gonna have expectation, and when you're gonna have the number one pick, and then you get a contract extension. When quite honestly, we're not gonna talk about it, but was it deserved at the time? I don't really think so.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that was a joke of the previous GM that they had.
Yeah.
But what the Cardinals are in the process of, and what's good is that everyone's on board with it. You don't see people skipping practices. You don't see people complaining about not getting playing time during a preseason or a training camp game.
Right.
That like some of these other teams are having.
Right.
You don't see somebody on their team requesting a trade.
Right.
So like everyone's with the culture they're trying to build and the process that they're trying to create here. And at the end of the day, like you can't say anything about it until we see them get on the field.
Sure.
But I believe that, I'm going to be probably more critical than I ever have been on Kyler this year because like everything is there again, right? Because years ago when they went to that Rams game, that really showed how pathetic that team was, not only due to the coaching staff they had, but just everybody was so selfish on that team.
Right.
Like Kyler had DeAndre Hopkins, but he even had Larry that year still.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was the right back. David Johnson? Not David Johnson.
Who was the running back that year?
I don't know if I remember.
Was it Connor still?
I don't think it was James Conner. No. I don't know. Whatever. But this year, dude, like he's got everything. Paris Johnson's at that left tackle.
Yeah.
They just drafted number 1 receiver. They have what a lot of people forget. They have a top tier tight end in Trey McBride.
Well, what year was that? That was 2021, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 21. It was the year after because they were like what were they like 8-0?
Yeah, they're 8-0.
They were 8-0. The year before that, the Steelers were 11-0. So they were 8-0. So it was 21. They had James Conner because they drafted Harris.
Yeah.
So they had Conner that year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I think, yeah, I just don't think there's an excuse for them this year. I don't think there's an excuse to at the end of this season for them to, be a couple games out of a wild card spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, the thing that's really holding back is like their schedule. Their schedule's not easy. But honestly, like I'm excited. I'm really excited to see them get out there week 1. I know we're saying like a lot of doubts and questions on them. At the same time, look at all the positives. I mean, they've built a pretty decently strong secondary. I think their front 7 might be the strength of the team. Their pass rush is pretty ass. I will say that. So that'll be, yep. God, how's that guy saw the team?
Oh man,
pass rush is pretty ass. But everything outside that, I think their running game can be good. I think their receiving game can be good. I think Michael Wilson as a receiver too could be lethal.
Rondell Moore's out for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Zay Jones, and they brought him in, so obviously that's going to help in terms of being a slot guy. Gosh, who's their center?
I don't know.
Froholt?
I think it was the starter last year.
Whoever that is. Honestly, I don't recall his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kaiser White, Mac Wilson, Zaven Collins.
Yeah, decent linebacking core.
Yeah. Sean Murphy Bunning, I like that addition this year. Buda Baker, Max Melton, another guy they're hoping to maybe get something out of. It's just really kind of young talent, and you kind of have to take what you can get. But really what's going to determine this as a successful season, Z, obviously, is not just their record, but is really finding themselves in a spot of maturity, culture, seeing guys bought in. And I think if we see that from this team, because there's talent, there's potential of excitement, having a fun offense, maybe even just being an under the radar type team that pulls out some wins, right? Like I said, I think they're going to be in some close ball games this year. But I think really a successful season is seeing that the growth of Kyler Murray, the growth of the culture, the growth of some of this young talent developing, and maybe finding yourself, like you said, a couple games out of a wild card spot. Yeah.
So it seems like your prediction is finish them last. I'm gonna have them finishing 3rd. I'm gonna have them going 8-9, potentially 9-8. I'll say 8-9. I won't give them a winning record. What's your record with them?
I'm gonna put them at 7-10.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think I'm gonna put them at 7-10. Like I said, everything's valid. The reason why I just think, you look at their schedule. I'm not a big schedule guy, but when we look at their schedule and they're in some of these close games with kind of where they're at, I just don't see them like really being able to push past some of these teams. So,
right.
But yeah.
So then there it is. So then you have Niners. So we both have the Niners and Rams in the playoffs.
Correct.
Yeah. So we both have the Niners and Rams in the playoffs. We both have the Cardinals and Seahawks missing it.
Yeah.
The Seahawks made it last year, right?
No.
Did they? Oh, they didn't make it last year.
Year before.
Oh. Yeah, well, they're definitely not making it this year.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the Cardinals, Z, honestly, if things can really go out well, I could see them shooting up the division next year.
No, I do. I mean, I think just like any of these good teams, dude. I mean, they start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. So is this finally the year that we start? Because what Ed and I do say about the Cardinals is we respect Monty as the general manager. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And we think Jonathan Gannon is a much better head coach. I think anybody can say that over Cliff Kingsbury.
That was just a mess.
And it was awful. It's awful.
Easily one of my least favorite head coaches of all time.
Oh, 100%.
Easily.
100%. Yeah.
Easily. I'd rather have freaking who was the guy before Whisenant for the Cardinals? The freaking nut. Freaking Afro black dude.
Yeah, what was his name? I might have to look it up.
I don't know. I don't remember his name, but I'd probably rather have him than Kingsbury. And that guy was a disaster.
Yeah, because wasn't the what did he say? Like, we play to win the game? No, he didn't say that. What did he say again?
I don't know. He said something stupid.
Yeah. Hold on. Before we end this, we got to find out.
Back when Bertrand Barry was playing defense.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, Steve Wilkes was pretty bad too.
Oh, yeah, Wilkes was bad. Yeah, Wilkes was bad.
Wilkes was really
about Wilkes.
Hold on. I think I have him right here. Okay, so all right, yeah, here it is. So it's gone from here. I'll just pull it up so we can look at it. Because this is on Wikipedia. God, just look at these records that these head coaches have had. Oh, these are horrific. Dennis Green.
Dennis Green. That's who it was. Dennis Green.
Yeah.
16 and 32.
Yeah. I mean, the only success they had was Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
With a 49-30 record.
Wisenhunt took him to a Super Bowl.
Wisenhunt took him to a Super Bowl, but they finished with a negative record with him.
Yeah.
And then Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, absolutely awful. Jonathan Gannon, we're not going to speak on it yet. Steve Wilkes, one and done. See you later. Yeah, Dennis Green. So obviously he coached for 2 seasons. So
right.
Anyways, but so that's our first video. That's our obviously that one was a bit longer because we had a little story time at the beginning and we talked about the
Z
new NFL.
Z being lost in New York. Kevin Mccalister.
Wish I was lost somewhere else, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think we all do too. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this NFC West division breakdown. Let us know if you guys agree with mine and Z's opinions. We appreciate your guys' support. Next time we come on here, you guys will see another division breakdown in the NFC. We're going to go through the NFC. We're going to go through the AFC video by video. You guys are going to see some NCAA college football content as well throughout this month leading into September. But other than that, guys, we appreciate your support and appreciate you being here. And other than that, Z, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Well, it's one of our videos, so we just got to end it with a picture of Barry. I think we've already done.
We'll just end it with Bernard.